Kindly just mute your mics, okay? All right then. So her question is this. The topic, first of all, is language as a barrier to implementing the child-centered 30/70 model. And she private chatted me, and this is her post directly verbatim. She said, what I mean about my question, what I mean is that here in the Core North Casina, it is not easy to implement the 70/30 method of teaching, whereby pupils research their next topic and get to discuss it in the class, while the teacher does 30% of the teaching. Such method can't work for us here as 80% of our pupils don't have much understanding of English language. So how do they research when they don't understand? If you teach in English, you have to explain more in Hausa for better understanding. So what method would you advise? This is profound. And immediately I saw this message, I could relate with her 100% because I've been in classes or in spaces where I have children who don't even speak a word of English. And I had to teach them, through the use of English language with different topics. And by the end of that academic year, I was supposed to transform their learning. So when she said that, she didn't know that I really, really understood and related with everything she was saying. So what I want to start by saying is I want to first of all honor this question. I want to honor this question. I want to honor this thought because if I don't, then it will be a disservice to her. If she asked me this question, it just tells exactly the kind of thinking that separates a good teacher from a great teacher. So what she does is she hears what I say, she looks at her situation, she asks herself, is this possible? Can this work? You understand? Please stand, please. Hold on, please. Hold on, please. Okay. Can you mute your mic, please? I think, can someone please announce on the group that as they join, they should mute their mics? It's interrupting here. I can't seem to mute this person, and the name isn't showing. Can you please mute your mic? 813663. All right. So, my sister, I want to acknowledge her because she did not reject it outright and said something like it's not going to work or it can't work. Because I've been in spaces where you bring in concepts to educators, but they tell you it can't work confidently. They tell you it can't work, and they try to tell you why what you're saying is not going to work, even if they obviously and clearly don't know what you're saying. I mean, they clearly don't know what they are saying. So I want to take my time. Subhanallah.
mo ti join bọ̀ mi ní lórí orúkọ mi ní jáde lábẹ́ tí ẹ pé mi náà mo nìkan ni bọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ àwọn tán rí mi ó kọ tí bá yà tún lù ṣe mo fi máa hàn lọ́dọ̀ ẹ tó.
I'm muting everyone manually. This is serious. Okay. All right. So what I want to say now, I'll just continue. Can somebody please put a post on the group, imploring everyone to just mute their mics as they join so that it doesn't interfere with what we are doing here. I've had to stop a couple of times to mute manually, and it's not making this lesson as productive as I would want it to be. So back to what I'm saying. Where was I? Okay, so she didn't reject it. She tried to understand it to see if it's going to work. And she wanted to see how it's going to work for her own children, in her own context, in her own reality, that a teacher who truly puts in the desire or the work to make sure that her children understand is asking this question. So for me, it means a lot to me because I love to see people who want to reason things out. They don't just learn and then absorb it and then go to class and do the same old thing they are doing. She wanted to understand it. That's why I'm taking so much time to explain and to acknowledge that question. But you're going to understand as I go further because I've also been in spaces where children do not understand and magic happens. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. So let us understand what the real problem is. So after acknowledging her, I want to also mention that that is not what we are talking about. Okay, that is not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is the children's learning. It's not the language. It's not the language. The concern raised is this, right? In the core northern communities like Katsina, where majority of the pupils do not have strong English comprehension. Okay, so that is her concern. That is the major concern. Now, this 70-30 model or 60-40 or 85-15 model is a model that asks children to research topic, right? To discuss these topics, to lead their own learning, to own their learning, to have agency of what they are learning in the classroom. But we can't do that if the children cannot read. And that's what she was saying. How do you discuss what you cannot even express, what you can't even read? And some schools go as far as ensuring that the children um, don't speak Hausa in the classroom. They speak only English. And then, apart from speaking English, they want to increase the quality of the English language that is being spoken in the classroom. I even have some schools who give them accents that isn't ours so that it would, it's like a marketing strategy. So I know that English, number one, can be a barrier, but again, there is a way to solve it. And I'm going to tell you what I have here in my notes. And I'm going to also tell you what worked for me as a teacher in my own experience. I had experience in nursery when none of my children could speak English, just a handful. And then I had that experience as well in primary classes. I believe I went into that school newly and I was just shocked because every child was speaking Hausa. It was just the Hausa playground. And I was wondering why everybody felt comfortable. So let me go through my notes first. But because I don't buy this, I'm not going to explain further on my notes, but I'm going to tell you what I experienced and what I did to make sure that change happened. Okay. So the concern raised is valid, and we're going to reinforce something this night. The 70-30 model is not about English. It was never about English. It's about the voice. It's about giving the child the space to think, the space to explore, the space to express. And a child can do all of these things in any language, regardless of the language. It depends on the creativity of the teacher. Okay, so let's not make the focus English first. We're going to treat the issue of English, but I want us to shift our attention to the learning itself, the content itself. Now, what does this model actually mean? Okay, now we have a situation where you have um, the teacher always in front of the class, writing on the board, talking from the beginning of the class to the end of the class. Now, that is the picture I have of my own learning when I was in primary school, secondary school, even at the university level. The teachers were the ones that were in front. I was sitting down, keeping quiet, listening, being a good girl, and just consuming information. But over time, researchers have got to realize that children don't actually learn by just sitting and listening. They learn by doing. And in an attempt to switch this narrative, switch places so that the children do more teaching, do more talking, do more discussing, the teacher takes the back seat. The teacher sits down and then only speaks where it is required. This can be done in a STEM environment. If you are a school that has, embodied STEM, I hope we all know that STEM is the future. If you are not doing STEM in your school, just know that you are sleeping. You are sleeping, and we need to wake up. So, in a situation where you have STEM activities that is taking over the environment, you've done your homework about STEM, and you integrate STEM, you realize that there is a lot of hands on activities going on. So, don't be confused about STEM. Let me just simplify it by saying hands on activities. Okay. And it involves the children talking together, planning together, making measurements, calculating, drawing, cutting, making, doing different things to produce a prototype. All these things require children doing. Batula, can you please mute your mic? It requires the children doing more of the talking because children can't be having hands-on activities and the teacher is doing all the talking. No, that doesn't happen. So what happens is that what is going on? I really need you all to mute your mics. Are we not telling them on the group? Can somebody please tell them on the group to mute their mics? This is not nice at all. I muted this person and he unmuted back. Okay. Now, kindly mute your mic, please. This it's not nice at all. I wish there was a way I could cancel out this person so that I wouldn't have to. Please mute your mic. If you've joined us, please mute your mic. Okay, beautiful. So we have where was I? Oh my goodness, where was I? Okay, so if you're going to have hands-on activities, right,
The
in the
children
classroom.
must be doing it.
Oh, Subhanallah, who's talking again? If you're going to have hands-on activities, the children would definitely be doing a lot of talking. Okay, the teacher wouldn't be doing much talking. If you did your homework well and you have instructional materials, you've done your behavioral objectives properly, you've written it well, your lesson, please bear with me here or stay with me, your lesson would have written down which child is going to do the slides, which child is going to arrange the classroom in such a way that there is collaborative learning. Maybe you put the tables together if you don't have a separate STEM lab. So you arrange your tables in such a way that you have groups of 4, groups of 3, groups of 5, depending on how large your class is. Okay. So your lesson plan has already provided for a collaborative classroom. Your behavioral objectives will guide you on how you're going to be asking questions and what the children will be doing simultaneously. So if you're having a project in your class or you're having a lesson, there are times where you're going to be discussing, and your discussion will not be you in front of the classroom. It will be you asking questions. So you ask questions. Let's see. Can somebody give me a topic? Let me just sample up because I know some of us might not be able to conceptualize what I'm saying until an example is given. Can somebody give me a topic? Just give a topic and then I'll try to tell you how you're going to ask questions in such a way that your behavioral objectives are met. I want a question from you. This is not a monologue, please. It's a dialogue. Just give me a topic. Anybody?
The solar system.
How
Walaikum
to
salam. Bismillah.
So the solar system.
Oh, the solar system. Beautiful. So we have the solar system, and the solar system cannot be taught by the teacher talking from the beginning to the end, right? So you're going to have hands-on activities that you've written in your own class, you've planned in your lesson, and you're going to have times for discussion. Now, during the discussion, you wouldn't want to be saying the solar system is ABC. The solar system is XYZ. Who can give? No, 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 no. We don't need you talking. Your behavioral objectives are ready. Can you mute your mic, please? Prestige or prestigious. Mute your mic, please. It's interrupting. So you don't want to do that. You would want to let me see. Let me mute your mic. All right. So you wouldn't want to be telling them everything. You would want to be asking questions. This is where you're going to employ the method of questioning. So it's a teaching approach. Questioning is a teaching approach. So you can use questioning to teach your lesson in such a way that you just ask obvious questions for the children to answer. So if you are a classroom that is already tech inclined, you can have a child ready by Google to Google questions. So you can ask, what is the solar system? What does it mean? Mind you, a good teacher would have informed the children ahead of time that next week we are going to be having the solar system. You would have given them ideas on what to expect. You would have told them to ask their mom, their dad, their senior ones about the solar system. You'll have even given them hints on what it is, or you'd have given them the notes or shown them a clip of what the solar system is. Can you mute your mic, prestigious, please? So once that happens, when they come to your class and it's time for the solar system, then you begin to ask questions during the discussion period. So you ask questions about the solar system and you go by saying, all right, who can tell me about the solar system? How many planets do we have? Who can tell me the names? Which one is bigger? Or which one is the smallest? Is Earth one of the planets of the solar system? Is the sun part of it? Is the sun the biggest? What color is represented by the sun? You are asking questions, and believe me, children are always inquisitive. by default, they are curious. So I know your class is going to be wild. They'll be answering questions. They'll be saying all sorts of things. Some can be saying utter rubbish, but yours is not to say no. Yours is to welcome the fact that they are contributing and you are engaging them. So you can use questions to carry out your lesson or to have your lesson concluded from the beginning to the end when it comes to discussion. Now, when it comes to hands-on activities, they are going to build a make-believe solar system, and you can use cardboard, you can use balloons, you can use cardboard paper, paper upon paper upon paper, wraps and wraps and wraps in different sizes to represent them, and then just use masking tape to label them. It can be that simple or be as complex as actually building molds of circles and then using straws, that stick out of the central orbit. I mean, the central planet where they, go round. And you can do that by asking questions. So which one is the smallest? Does this one have any moon? What is a moon? How many stars does it have? What is a star? What does it mean? You will just be asking questions during your hands-on activity, and you find out that if you were to record your class, the children will be the ones doing most of the talking. And this is what I mean. There is engagement happening. You are no longer the boss in the class. You're no longer the alpha and omega in the classroom. You have taken the back seat, and yours is just to facilitate and guide the children towards achieving your behavioral objectives. That is a quick example because I have a lot to say here. Now, so the 70-30 does not mean that a teacher disappears from the class. It only means that children must go home. Also doesn't mean that children should go home and Google topics in English. It means that in the classroom, the child is doing more of the cognitive work, the thinking, the questioning, the discussing, and the discovering. It's more of the children's work than the teacher. So the teacher that is used to standing in front and doing everything, I'm sorry to say, in a 21st century classroom where you want it to be child centered and all about the children, and children doing more of the talking, you have to hand over the baton to the child. The teacher is not silent, the teacher is the guide. Don't get me wrong, you're not silent, you're just the guide, and your job is to ensure that your behavioral objectives are met. So, and you're also the adult in the classroom. So you can feel the temperature of what's going on, and then you can readjust, to suit the atmosphere. So the one who designs the experience that makes the child 70% possible is you. And that changes everything when it comes to talking about language. Language is a tool. That is not the goal, okay? It is not the goal at all. If you go to China, it's all Mandarin, and that's because the British didn't colonize them. The British colonized us, that's why we are using their language. And if you're going to be speaking their language, we might as well do it very well. But in the meantime, we shouldn't, get distracted and feel that English is the goal. The content is actually the goal, and language is the tool. And I'll give you tips on how to go around it because I've done it a couple of times during my teaching years. So here is the truth I want us to, just reflect on this night and probably tomorrow and ongoing forward. Remember that it's just a tool, okay? It is not learning itself. It is the tool. It is not the learning itself. It is the tool. It is not the learning itself. I want to say it as many times as possible. So when we insist that a child-centered learning can only happen in English, we have confused the vehicle from the destination. Sometimes children get lost, and it is our job to see that they are on track. A child in Katsina who discusses, debates, questions, and explores in Hausa is doing more cognitive work than a child in Lagos who recites correct English sentences without understanding a single concept behind them. I hope you understand. So the comprehension is first, language development follows, and that is, the developmental sequence. What is easy and what is known comes first to what is complex and what is unknown. And I want to give an example of when I was in Katsina. We had children come in the first day to write entrance examination. So it was done based on their age and the previous class they were in. So we placed them in those previous classes to take entrance examinations into the next class. So they were more or less like placement assessments. And the teachers came down to me to tell me that, ma'am, the children aren't writing anything. So we're a little bit confused. Okay, the children aren't writing. Why aren't they writing? What's going on? So we went upstairs to find out why the children weren't writing. And the teachers went up again to find out. They did their back and forth, and they said they tried, but the children were just staring at them. And I couldn't understand why the children would just be staring at them. So somebody just suggested, or should we speak Hausa to them? And I said, please go ahead and speak Hausa to them. And the teachers ran back downstairs and said, Ma, they're all writing. The moment we spoke Hausa to them, they started writing. It was at that point that I knew that there was work to be done. So what we did was that, please stay with me here because it's very important. Now, what we did in the first 6 weeks of that term, we did not teach anything. We only concentrated on phonics and reading, and we spoke square English to them. For the first 6 weeks, we did not teach anything. We concentrated on only math and English and did a lot of hands-on and focused on speaking English and teaching children phonics and teaching them how to read and how to understand. Children are fast and it improved, even if it was a little bit. There was a little improvement. Now, after those first 6 weeks, the children went on the half term. By the time they came back, we now picked up other subjects. But that was the strategy that we used. And these were children who weren't fluent in English, they were uncomfortable with English. But as time went on, they began to speak English and they became more confident in the use of English language. Now, let me give you another tip. Another example. Now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to solve the problem of English or language as a barrier. Okay. So I want you to test the temperature of your school to see the extent of damage. No, that's not the word. I wouldn't say damage. I want you to see the extent at which the children are behind when it comes to speaking English. Let me take you back to my experience when I was a grade 5 teacher. I was in Kano then, and I stepped into that school as a new teacher, excited to rock the whole place. And I found out that everybody spoke Hausa. English was probably in class. But the children on the playground and assembly, everybody was speaking Hausa. And I kept wondering that, okay, the children speak Hausa already. I know they already speak Hausa. They are coming to school to learn how to speak English. What are we doing? And I found out that I was the only one that was that concerned. So what I did was I got children on my own. Nobody sent me. I was that kind of teacher. Nobody told me to do it, but I just felt it wasn't right. That if we're going to teach children in a place where English language is a lingua franca, the only way we can salvage the situation is by teaching them early enough. So what I did was I announced on the assembly ground about the use of Hausa as a medium, and I told them that I was going to have my personal CIA agents that was going to write down their names, and if their names appeared, they would be facing the consequences. Okay, so I had one or two pupils. Okay, my voice is echoing. This is serious. Can you please mute your mics? I can hear my voice. Oh. I can hear my voice back at me. Can you all mute your mics? Thank you. Okay, it's better now. So, what I did was I got students or pupils, and I told them that they should write names of anybody who spoke Hausa in the school. And every assembly, I'll call out the names. Of course, nobody knew who the agents were. Of course, their identities had to be protected. So I didn't tell them, but I had names, and they had to face the consequences. I don't remember what they did, what the consequences were, but it had to be related to what they had done. Either they had to write it that they were not going to do it again or something, but I know it was related to the crime they had committed. Let me call it crime. So I always had, a long list of people speaking Hausa. And then every assembly, as I called out the names, I found out that more children wanted to be CIA agents. And I also noticed that as time went on, the number on the list was reducing. So that was on the school scale. It was something I took like my life depended on it, and it worked. Then in my own class, my children couldn't spell. I was teaching grade 5, or was it grade 4? Either grade 4 or grade 5. My children couldn't spell. So what I did then was I had 20 words every week. So on Monday morning, I would have them get out. I got an exercise book for each child. And when I come into the class, the first thing we did, I would just write spelling on the board. Everybody open your spellings book. They already knew what to do and they would just number their books 1 to 20. And then I start calling those words. I call the words and they write. Tuesday morning, I get into the classroom. The first thing is spellings. The same words that I did the day before.
Your line is breaking. I just write what?
Okay. I write spellings on the board, the topic, and the children hold their pens and they listen to the words that I've called out and they write it down. I dictate words for them to spell and we mark it. By Tuesday, the first thing we do, this takes like 5 to 10 minutes and we are done. The day begins. The same words that were used the day before, I call them out again. So by Friday, children who got like 2 out of 20 marks on Monday will be having like 15, 18 out of 20 marks by Friday. And that is because we spell it, we correct it, we mark it on the spot every single morning. So that was my own strategy to having children to improve their spellings. And for getting children to speak English, I am telling you, it was gone, eradicated. No Hausa in the school. And this is something that, I just felt wasn't right. So if everyone is doing something uncomfortable, doesn't mean you should join them. If deep in your gut you feel that no, this shouldn't work out, please, educators in the room, do it yourself. Go ahead and
Now,
do it yourself. Every other person will join in when they see that what you are doing is making sense and is working. So that is for the Hausa aspect. And that was for me in grade school. Now in nursery, I applied at a school once. And in that school, I applied to teach in the secondary department. But the owners told me they didn't want me to teach in the in the secondary department, that they wanted me to teach in the nursery. And I didn't have experience with younger children and I was scared. And I said, no, that's what I'm applying for. And they said, no, they wanted me to teach in the preschool because I had 2 young boys. And they felt that because I had young children, I would have more compassion for children in early years. And that kept me quiet. It made me just think back a little bit.
but I don't know.
And it made me, take a step back and I took the job to be a nursery teacher. I was scared because it was the first class, pre nursery. The first class into the school was what I was asked to teach, and I had no experience in that class. My experience or my forte was primary classes, and I taught in secondary. So that was my first experience. And guess what? Just guess what? The children were just blasting Hausa, and I didn't know what I was going to do about it. So I was made an assistant teacher to somebody who was very diligent. So I saw how she just spoke English to the children. She was diligent in her work. Mrs. Esther, I don't know if I would ever see her again, but she was a fantastic human being, Mrs. Esther. Or we call ourselves Auntie this, Auntie that. I don't know if that's what is still being used today. So that's Auntie Esther. And they called me Auntie Fatima. So I learned from her. I worked with her for a year. Then after that year, was it a year or a term?
That's what you down.
I'm not sure if it's yeah. Can you please mute your mic? Can you please mute your mic, Sophia? Ooh, okay. So I I got my own class the next year. I think it was the next year. So I had my own class of 3-year-olds who were speaking Hausa. And what they did was if I just had to find a way around it because I knew I wasn't having it. I knew that something had to change and something had to be improved upon. So when the children walked into the class every morning, I used to get to school very early. I remember I used to be in school by 6:30, and the intention, I'm not that serious now anyway, but then I used to get to school 6:30 because I wanted to use the period between 6:30 to 7:30 to memorize Quran. Okay, so I'll get to school very early. I had 2 young boys, but I'll get to school 6:30. 6:30 to 7:30, I'm in school. By 7 o'clock, I'm in school. 7 o'clock, I'm in class sitting down, and the first child meets me in class. So when they come into the class, they will say Inauni, and I'm like, nope, say good morning, ma. And the child will repeat after me and say say good morning, ma. And I was like, no, 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 don't say, just say good morning, ma. And the child says, say good morning, ma. All right, so that's what I had to go through. So every morning, I made them come to me, greet me, and I'll say, how are you? They will tell me, how are you? And I'm like, no, 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 say I'm fine. Then they will say, I'm fine. Then I'll say, where is your homework? Sometimes they repeat, where is your homework? I'll say, no, 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 give me your homework. Open your bag, bring out your book, and give me your homework. So I took the pain to do that every day. And by the time that class was done, by the end of that academic session, my children were speaking English. Thank God I couldn't speak Hausa, so I wasn't tempted to speak Hausa to them. I was always speaking English to them. I was always communicating in English. If they didn't understand, I used pictures, I used books, I used everything I described. I demonstrated, I danced. There was nothing I didn't do, but they were speaking English at the end of the day. So my response to the sister that asked me about this issue is that if you're persistent, can you please mute your mic, everyone? What is going on today? What is going on today? Is to be persistent. Don't give up. Don't be tempted to speak another language, either Yoruba or Igbo or, what have you. Insist on speaking the language you want the children to learn in. They are young. Their brains are like sponges. They will pick it. We are the ones that feel they will not learn because we are looking at the world through our own eyes. They sponge faster, they learn faster, and they would understand it. I am telling you firsthand what I have done. My notes here tell me speak their language, right? Break down those concepts. Okay, I don't know how this works, but I've seen it in theory, in textbooks. But what I have done is speak the language you want them to learn. If it's Arabia, speak Arabic to them and then use as many instructional materials to show them what you mean. You demonstrate, you show videos, you insist, you talk slowly. If you talk slowly, the children will definitely get what you're saying. And this is a fact. It is a fact because I've done it. It's not in textbooks. It's not in is it Umar? Can you please mute your mic? Please mute your mic, everyone. Thank you. All right, so let me go back to my notes. We should be rounding up very soon. So I want us to know that when we insist on child-centered learning, we should also know that even if language is something that might be an hindrance, let us focus on the content. So continue speaking the language, but let your focus be on the content. So if you're going to be teaching solar system for now, so instead of speaking Hausa and saying this is a sun, you touch the picture of the sun, then take the children outside and point to the sun and say, that is the sun and this is the sun. You can show them a video and say, that is the sun. Everybody say, that is the sun. Okay? I don't know how old your children are, but depending on their age, you would know how you're going to explain what you mean in English. Like I'm telling you now, the textbook would say speak their language, but if you want quick results, speak the language you want them to learn or you want them to speak. And believe me, if you are insistent, you would have them speaking English, proper English, by the way. Now, speaking English that is not where you have children missing their tenses, okay? They miss their tenses and you want to correct their English. I have done that as well where children come to school and oh boy, their tenses are misplaced. And you find out that you just are not happy with the way the children speak English. I have done it where this was my story and the children were transformed and people said children speak good English in my school. So let me tell you what we did in this instance. I'm taking my time to explain this because I believe that a lot of schools are going to learn from this. I've been with schools and this is one of the major problems they have. The children don't speak well, they misplace their tenses, and we don't know what you're going to do about it. They speak a lot of vernacular in class or in school, and this is what we hear. So we're talking about two things now. The first one is English as a language, and then serving as a barrier to understanding. I think I've treated that one. Now, for the language, speaking eloquently well, let me give you a few tips that can help you. It helped me, and I think where this happened was in Ilorin when I was in Kwara State. the children that came to the school weren't so eloquent. Not all the children, but certain children. And sometimes if you have more children who don't speak eloquently well, you might find out that children who come in with beautiful English might begin to copy their friends. I don't know why the negative always has more weight over the positive. It's usually difficult to improve. And it's even in Islam. You know, the path to Al Jannah is like a hill, climbing a hill up, but the path to hell is a slopey slide down. So I believe it cuts across all spectrums. If you're going to build, it's a little more difficult, but if you're going to break down something, it's so easy. So what we did was we had some trainings with the teachers and made the teachers understand the importance of children speaking proper and eloquent English. So you have them correct children. Can you mute your mic? There's somebody making noise in the background. Kindly mute your mic, please. I think it's prestigious. It's interfering. Yes. So what we did then was that we had um, children repeat after us. So a child can come. My voice is echoing again. Can you please mute your mic? My voice is echoing to me. All right. So what we did then was when children, spoke in broken English or their tenses weren't right, they would want to come over probably when they are unsettled, or maybe they want to report a child who had offended them and they want to come and report the case to me. No matter how upset you are, no matter how upset you are, I wouldn't carry you with your emotions if you don't speak well. So if you say he come and hit me, I will say no. Say he came to hit me. Then the child will say he came to hit me. Then I go. No, no, no. Repeat it. Say then I went. Then the child will say then I went. So if you came in apprehensive, you were scared, you were crying, or whatever the emotions going through your system was, by the time I correct you 600 times, the next time you're coming to me, you would watch your English. So that's what we did to the children. All teachers were instructed that no matter what, since this is the goal, our eyes are on the ball, our eyes are on the goal, right? And the goal is to have children speak properly. So whenever they came to us, we had to interrupt them all the time and ask them to repeat the correct tense after us. So children would always slow down. When they were approaching teachers, they would slow down and speak slowly because they wanted to say it right. Before we knew what was happening, people were saying that, oh, they love the way children in our school speak English. Please don't joke with this. Don't sleep on this. I'm telling you step by step what worked. This is what worked for us. And we didn't give up. What the problem certain schools might have is that the school leader might be passionate about this, but the teachers might be lax. Or one teacher might be passionate about this and other teachers might just be relaxed. So whatever the case, right? If the school leader is the one passionate about this, the onus is on you to ensure that you are always in the face of every teacher. As a school leader then, what I used to do then was if I heard anything out of place, I will fly out of my office and immediately correct it. I used to overreact on purpose so that they would understand the gravity. Because a child can come to school and not speak English correctly. Then what are you doing in school? That is the first thing. Learn how to speak, then to read, then to write. So I used to take it as serious as, I don't know, breathing. In fact, there was a time I almost cut my prayer because I heard somebody didn't say something right. I had to hold myself. That is how seriously I took it. And it paid off. So for speaking English, it has to be something that we take very seriously and we don't joke with. Then as teachers, before we select teachers to work in our schools, this has to be rammed into their brains as seriously as possible that we don't tolerate this. A child coming to our school is coming to learn how to read, speak, and write, and that is our primary goal. So every single teacher has to be on page, has to be on the same page with you to be able to, um, to achieve your goals. So that is for my experience in early years, my experience in primary classes, and then my experience. I think my experience in secondary school, the children were speaking English. I didn't have a problem with that. So that is for language. Now, practical solutions. You can have, let me see, you can have a low proficiency environment for English, probably a safe space for mistakes. Or yeah, let me just say a safe space for English for mistakes. So when children make mistakes, I believe that the first thing is to make them feel safe they can make mistakes. But you need to give them time. Tell them that once it is, I'm giving you only 2 days. After 2 days or after the first week after resumption, this is all you have. After that, I'm not going to allow you to make mistakes. These are the consequences. And if you don't know what to say, ask me, and just make sure the consequences are not heavy so they don't feel scared to talk. Okay. And I know that there's also a school of thought that says you should allow pupils to use their mother tongue, teach them in their mother tongue first, which is the early years, very early on. But once that is established and you want to come into English in the classroom, remember the purpose for teaching them English is because it's the lingua franca, one. Then two, they are going to write exams in English. Then three, they're going to write entrance examinations in English. Common entrance, SSC is going to be in English. Job selection is going to be who speaks English well. It's so sad, but that is our reality. So if you want to help your children, the best thing to do is to start very early to teach children to speak English very well, confidently and proficiently. We shouldn't, sleep on that at all. In China, they don't have any problem because over there the lingua franca is Mandarin. They don't need to speak English. So we can't come here and say my father's language is Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. I'm not going to speak English, except if you don't want that child to exist in the corporate world. If that is your plan, no problem. It's a free world. But if a child is coming to school, it's our duty to ensure that we transfer that knowledge we have of proficient English language to the children. And then when it comes to studying, look at the temperature. Feel the temperature in your school. If the children can't research, if they can't understand, then you stop and increase the periods for English language. That is why we are educators. That is why we are the experts. You feel the temperature, look for a solution, solve it, and then move on. Like the teacher that told me about Kasina not being a place for 70-30, I was in Kasina and I did it. I was in Kasina. The children couldn't speak house English well. We had to drop other subjects because we just felt it was hopeless teaching children science where they couldn't even speak or read English. So for the first 6 weeks, we were teaching only English and math. We felt math was important. So we taught them English. We spoke strictly in English. We taught them phonics, how to blend, how to read, and stuff like that. By the time 6 weeks was done, they went home, came back, we picked up other subjects. So you look at your school and see what would work for you. And I believe carrying out STEM activities will definitely be easier on you. Well, I don't know if she's here, but did I answer your question? Did I treat this topic the way that is going to change the way you look at things? Regardless of how poor the English language is in a school, you can actually be intentional about reverting it or transforming it, and children will learn what they are meant to learn. It depends on the creativity of the teacher, the devotion of the teacher, and the cooperation of the management. Because sometimes we actually have teachers who are devoted. However, the management is relaxed and they don't buy in the idea. So that can be frustrating. Okay. So it depends on what it is. But for the sister that asked me, I believe that if we're just to, take your time, have a mastermind or a group of teachers who are on the same page with you, you'll be able to achieve what you want. I believe that information just has to be passed across and we'll get what we want. All right. I think we can unmute our mics now and let's have a party. Any questions? Do we have any questions? Is there anything that hasn't been answered yet? Let's see if we can help you out with your unique situations, or if you want ideas in this regarding this particular topic, so that we can close. It's already almost 9:30. We've almost done an hour. Educators, come on. Are we done? Are we done? Please, we are educators. Everybody's mic should be unmuted by now. We should be talking. Don't tell me that you are shy. Teachers talk a lot. Teachers talk. Are you only talking when your children are in the classroom? We are all colleagues. We are all colleagues. Please unmute your mic. Please unmute your mic. Let's ask questions. Let's discuss. Contribute. Ask questions. Let's see how we can improve the quality of learning for children. You can use pictures. You can use videos. You can use real life situations. You can demonstrate for children who don't speak. And believe me, I am telling you as a matter of fact that your children will speak English and they will learn in English. Okay? I can see some mics being unmuted. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullah. Which state are you from? Oh, okay, I know who this is. Abu Abida. Bismillah.
Naam, yes. Mashallah. Perhaps I just thought you might want to emphasize the need to not be strictly, how do I call it, submissive to schemes of work. You know, the need for flexibility so that this kind of arrangements can be made without feeling guilty, without guilt as per whatever scheme is supposed to have been followed. You understand?
No, I didn't get you.
Okay. I was saying, when you have a challenge, such as this language challenge, that needs to be overcome, perhaps teachers should know they have the liberty to play around the regular schemes of work. Like you suspended other subjects then to do math and English, which paid off. Perhaps teachers can also suspend some topics to address the
Your
root.
voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear. I don't know if it's others that are interrupting or it's from your space. I'm not sure, but your voice is not clear.
Okay, how is it now?
It's a lot better. Yeah, it's better.
So very quickly, I was saying, perhaps we want to emphasize the fact that teachers have the liberty to modify whatever skills they have, or to play around their skills rather schemes of work, so that they solve this fundamental problem.
Okay.
You know, I see situations where teachers feel too, obliged to meet up with schemes.
Yes.
Whereas the foundations are not really
there. Yes.
So I want to talk about them.
Yes. In fact, this is a fantastic one because those that are currently in my mentorship program, we talked about this very topic where we felt that there are certain foundations that need to be ironed out first before you build upon anything, because if the foundation is not there, your house is not going to stand. So the foundation for anything we are doing is important, is paramount. If we want children to, if we sincerely are there to work, right, as educators, if we are sincerely there to work and impact the lives of the children, you will know that you can't be teaching children calculus if they don't know 1 plus 1. You can't be teaching children addition of fraction if you don't even know that 1/2 means half. So the foundations are very important. And when we get into a classroom and we see where children are, that is why I'm of the opinion that when you start a new term, or if you're a teacher in a new class, or probably a new academic session begins and you are to take children in the next class, you haven't taught them before, rather than just begin to create plans, you observe the children first. When you observe the children, probably for a couple of days, expose them to as many activities as possible. It could be as simply as going outside to play football, or telling them a story in the class, or playing a game in the class, or telling them a story. You will be able to see those who are kinesthetic learners. You'll be able to know those who are interpersonal learners. You'll be able to tell those who are visual learners. You can group them and you'll be able to make provision for them in your lesson plan. So when you observe, you now assess before you plan. So that planning the observation serves as the foundation for a proper plan for you to begin to, build upon whatever building you have. So please, educators, if we really have the interest of the children at heart, can you mute your mics, please? Mute your mics, mute your mics, mute your mics, mute your mics. Everyone, please mute your mics. Okay? So if you have the interest of the children at heart, subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. I wish there was a one button mute here. One button muting system to just mute everyone at once. Okay, so just play around, relax. It's not about finishing the curriculum. If you finish the curriculum and then you still have a class of people who don't have a clue of what you have done, so why do we waste our time coming to school in the first place? So let's just relax, have a lovely time. I always tell my teachers to have fun when they are writing their plan. Have fun when you are teaching. If you're not having fun and your lesson is like a job, is like a chore, then rethink it. Make sure that the lesson is fun for you and fun for the children. You know how you want something to be interesting for you? Make it interesting for you and the children. You find out that it would really, really touch you if the children don't understand because it's feedback. And you are looking at the children. You're not just completing the lesson. You want to see those who are not picking up, and then you reflect, you go back to your drawing board and see what you can do to help them out. Because every single human being on this call, God has a reason for making you a teacher or an educator. It's not by mistake. It's not a coincidence. There's something you have. There is something in you that would impact the child. That is why you are there. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected you to be in the educational industry. There's something you have to offer. So please extend and stretch yourself to offer that, and tell yourself that Allah did not make a mistake by choosing you. Okay? All right. So I believe wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now we are almost
Jazakallah khair.
wa yakum.
May Allah continue to preserve your own goodness, elongate your life, and grant your wishes. Jazakumullah khairan for what you have been putting forth. The Muslim to make a significant reform in the educational sector. It indeed is a good opportunity to have the privilege to attend this kind of gathering. Because you see a lot where they are organized with a large amount of money. Jazakallah khairan. I want to add to what you earlier said concerning, the teacher, making some decisions at his or her own discretion. At times, the management is not, see the way the teacher is, seeing things, because they are much concerned about, finishing the curriculum at the stipulated time. So the teacher becomes under pressure, to combine between what she feels or he or she feels that is right to do, and of course ensure that he or she achieves at the end of the day. But as regards to the management, they are not on the same page with the teacher. So they are much concerned about, finishing, the curriculum. The teacher said, no, we have a long way to go. We have to stop at this particular junction before we move further. So I don't know, what is your advice concerning this, this problem whereby the teacher do not have, the sole, the sole authority to make some decisions in the school. And of course, at times he or she might be queried for, not meeting up with the curriculum. Jazakallah khairan.
I believe this is very simple. I want to start with the fact that, number one, we are adults and we all know what we want in life. Where we find out that we are in a space, we're in a space that doesn't align with our values, then we leave and go to a space that aligns with our values. If you are the one that is the leader, you employ teachers that align with what you want. Because if you don't do that, you would not be able to grow your school in a direction that you want. If you are an educator and you get to a school where you want to implement certain innovative practices that would build the school and also help you feel fulfilled, and you find out that the management isn't supporting your dream or supporting you implementing your expertise, you have two options. It's either you stay there and continue to feel bad and unfulfilled, or you go to a space that welcomes your practices. And then you have your question was also talking about where a teacher wants to do something like that, and then the school is not. Maybe a teacher wants to take his or her time and do the right thing, and probably work on the foundation, because I spoke about foundation. You can't be building a house where there's no foundation, and the school is bent on you completing the lesson plan, completing the scheme of work, meeting up with curriculum, whether or not the children get it. You should know that that is not your space. It's not rocket science. That is not your space. There is a space for everyone. There are certain teachers who will thrive in that kind of school. And there are certain teachers who will just be laid and be pulled back in that kind of school. There's a space for everyone. And I hope we don't have educators that think like that on this call. We have to know that there is no rush anywhere. We were brought up to feel that, hey, everybody should rush, finish the curriculum, go to secondary school at the age of 2, go to university at the age of half. You know, where are we rushing to? You end up rushing to the end and you don't get a job, or you stay broke for the next 20 years after school. So what are we doing? Where are we rushing? Where are we rushing to? So, just look for your space and then pitch your tent there. There's nothing, it's not hard at all. At all.
Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullah.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for everything you do for the Muslim Ummah. May Allah bless you abundantly.
I mean,
Really, really appreciate
thanks, ma'am.
all you do for us.
Alhamdulillah.
So I just want to ask that when kids in the north, especially kids in the north, when they continue to speak Hausa in schools, apart from making sure you continue to correct them, when they don't say it correctly, what else can you use as consequences that will work if they keep speaking vernacular?
Let me see. I left the classroom so many years ago, but I can still, let me see. If they speak Hausa, I want to be as practical as possible. Let me see. Who on this call is in Kasina? Or was with me in Kasina? Is anybody, let me check. Is anybody on this call who was with me in Kasina? What did we do? Let me see. Let me check through. Is anybody here? Let me see. Okay, I can't find anybody here. I thought I saw someone's name. Halima. I think I saw Halima here. Halima, are you here? Okay, Halima has left. Okay. All right, let me see. You know what? Let me see. What I want to say is let me see. If children don't speak English, I think the major consequence now, as I sit here now, probably if I were in that situation, I might do something else. But as I sit here holding my phone and talking to you, the consequence that I would probably give is I would always interrupt you as you speak. I wouldn't let you complete that sentence. I would have you correct yourself before you continue. And it was quite difficult for certain teachers at the beginning. But when they realized that there was no going back, it was this way or the highway. So that is what I know that I would do immediately. As I'm sitting down here, if I were put in an environment where children were speaking Hausa and I had a year to transform everybody, you will not be given the liberty to complete a sentence without, if I hear you going out of order, I will just correct you instantly and then tell you what to say and ask you to repeat after me. And that is what I'll tell all my teachers to do. And I'll model that behavior to them. So as I sit here, that's That's the first thing and the major thing I'm going to do on assembly ground during break time. Even if they're saying, "Hello, ma'am, can you come and you said, please open for me my book." I would say no. Repeat after me. Open my book for me, or open my bottle for me, please. Can you open my bottle for me, please? And ask them to repeat after me, even if it means sitting down there so that they get that sentence. I will sit down and make sure they repeat after me and get that sentence properly pronounced. Yes. And I will not get tired.
So,
Wa alaikum
Assalamu
salam.
alaikum.
Naam, wa alaikum salam.
Very quickly on the last two issues, I want to add a third option to the two options you gave regarding the teacher who is in the wrong setting.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the teacher has to leave because the management is not forthcoming, the teacher might end up leaving several places because there's quite a large number who
Mm-hmm.
do not see things this way. So I'd rather the teacher tries to educate the management, to enlighten the management. Like you say, we're adults.
Mm.
Of course, I know some settings the management can be so
Adamant.
how do I call it? So arrogant and so bossy.
Mm.
But then if basically a query is not a crime, if you issue me a query, in my response to the query, I explain and enlighten you, educate you.
Mm.
So if you are a sincere person, perhaps your query was out of ignorance. So it's an opportunity for me to enlighten you, you know. And then before that, perhaps effective communication can help. If the teacher observes that the management is not thinking in that direction, in some way, somehow, finally, you have a way of passing messages. You have a way of displaying your performance. Have your records ab initio. The entry level of the learners. Note, have that documented, and then over a short while, document their current situations so that the progress is in black
It's
and white.
recorded, yes.
I think we're making efforts to transform the setting. It's only when you try all means and it's not working out, then perhaps you throw in the towel. So that's the option I'm there to add.
Beautiful. So,
and for the second sister that talked about
Hausa
Hausa and all of those, yes, I wish that we can play down on consequences and think more about motivation. Being proactive in what they call stimulating the students to want to speak English. They're speaking Hausa because there's nothing's attracting them to speak English. I mean, that is all they speak at home and out of those. So they've not been enticed by anything to speak in English. they feel burdened asking them to speak in English. So giving them consequences is just like making matters worse. That's the way I think.
Yes.
So I think we could have fun ways of encouraging when they feel they make attempt to speak English, you celebrate them, make it big like they've done some
yes 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 that's a good one.
I think this approach has helped so that it becomes something attractive, something that okay, it's exciting, they see it as fun.
Beautiful.
Not as
consequences,
ritual or so. So that is the bit.
I mean, Jazakallah khair. So you can see that is fantastic. That's why, in fact, I couldn't even think of a consequence when I heard the word consequence. So Alhamdulillah, this is I think these are two very powerful should I say additions. The first one is try. Even if they give you query, like the first contributor asks that you'll be given a query if you try. He said that you could also document your progress and then show them and then educate them. And if they see that whatever you're saying still doesn't add value, then you can leave, but at least try. So that is one good addition. And then the second one is make speaking English fun and interesting so that they would want to, rather than, give consequences. Maybe it's because I was saying consequences throughout, for lack of a better word. But when you asked me directly, I couldn't even think of a consequence because the goal was actually to speak. And the best thing was just to correct them on the spot. So this is a fantastic one. Add value by making it fun. Let them see what they stand to gain. Let it be interesting. And I just pray your teachers are going to be able to tag along, and you would have to be everywhere and make sure that you don't relent if you know your goal, and give yourself a deadline. If you want this to happen for you, give yourself a deadline. Deadlines work for me. I don't know about you, but it really, really works for me. So you can give yourself a deadline. By the end of first term, by the end of second term, I give myself a year, all my children should be speaking properly. And believe me, it's going to work. So I would be bringing this to a close, but I would like to say one or two things. I realized that I have I want to do a giveaway. I won't say a giveaway, but I would like to do my own Salah giveaway. Yes, everybody gave, not everyone, but a few. I saw a few Salah gifts and Salah cuts and discounts that people were doing online, and I forgot that I also had products. So I have some products that I'll be doing some concessions for. Should I say I'll be giving discounts on, and there are three, and I'm going to be giving a 50% discount. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm going to be doing a 50% discount. So if you go to my catalog, I have three products, right? The first one is the Jolly Phonics, 50%, and it's going to be open tomorrow by 12 noon. I'll go and adjust the prices to half, and that window is going to be open for 6 hours, and I'll take it back to the normal price. I want to say this is my way of also celebrating Eid for everyone. So there's Jolly Phonics, and then there is this issue school owners used to have about collecting school fees. There was this COVID situation. I don't know if you can remember when we had the COVID saga. I think it was early February or towards the end of February, we had to close schools. All schools were asked to shut down. And I was on a group where a lot of school owners were seriously lamenting that they hadn't collected their school fees and parents hadn't paid and they're shut down schools. They didn't know what to do. I had collected my own 100% because I had a strategy in place that I had used to collect school fees 100%, and I wouldn't have to bother myself with all of that. So I have a course, Tuition to Fruition. That is there also, 50% off. And what was the last one? Anyway, there's one. Okay, STEM. I have a book that I wrote, and I gathered STEM activities, the materials, the plan, the objectives, every little thing that you need to know about STEM activities in your class for different age groups. So I put that together, and it is also there. I'll also be giving it away for 50% off for a window of 6 hours. So inshallah, tomorrow I'm going to go to my shop, open it, cut the prices by half, and by 6 p.m. I'll be taking it back to the original price. So if it's anything that you like, you can go in. Then the mentorship for the next cohort to be started, you can start registering for it, and it's going to start next month on the 15th of July, inshallah. So you can begin to register. Those that are currently on are having a fantastic time. I don't know if anybody is here to talk about it for 1 minute. If you have any students here, please talk about it for 1 minute before we close so that others will know that they are missing a lot. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu
Now, please.
Thank you so much.
Now,
Thank you so much for enlightening.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm calling from Kaduna.
Okay.
May Allah reward you.
Ameen.
Allah makes it beneficial.
Ameen.
I need you to please shed more light on develop their reading skills. How our learners can develop reading skills, especially those in lower primary.
Okay, I will answer this question. I would have to close because I think we've spent over an hour. So you want to know how children can develop reading skills. The very first thing I would say,
they can develop their reading skills.
Yes, reading skills. I think what I would just say right off the back is read stories to them. That is the first thing. When you read interesting stories to them, they would want to, they would want to read. So if they see books, they would also want to know how interesting this book is. I want to read it. So when you've instilled that love for reading in their heart, then you can now start bringing phonics in. So phonics is a good way, but the first thing I would say is read very interesting stories to children in an interesting manner. Not read a comprehension passage as though you were reading a lecture. Reading a newspaper to adults in a lecture room. but with facial expressions, with changing of your voice tones to movements, just to make it interesting for them. So when you read stories to them a couple of times, then you now introduce phonics and let them know that okay, you're doing phonics because they're going to learn how to read. So if they can read, they'll be able to pick up the book themselves and read. So do you know about
All right.
phonics, Jolly Phonics?
Yes, ma.
Very good. So if you master
Yeah.
Jolly Phonics, use Jolly Phonics. You understand? You can also
Okay.
buy the
Mm.
cost tomorrow. I'm going to make it half of whatever the cost is now so that you quickly key into it. Okay, tomorrow by 12
All
noon,
right.
inshallah. And then there's
All right. Thank you.
repetition. Yeah, there's repetition. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Mm.
So thank you so much,
Inshallah.
everyone.
Jazakallah khair.
Wa
Thank you.
yakum. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone, for joining. It's a pleasure. It's
So
always an honor.
next week's topic.
Pardon?
Next week's topic.
Oh,
Next
next
week's
week's
topic.
topics. I want us to suggest it on the box. Let's leave it to everyone. Let us suggest our topics and then we are going to pick, as we go. So we can take the next 5 weeks. Just drop your topics and then we'll pick it one after the other on the group, inshallah. And also leave comments about what we've learned today on the group so that others too can see what they're missing and join for the next free training by Monday next week, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good night, everyone.